All right, Muslims, I've got a story from your prophet that I would love, absolutely love to see you explain. I don't think you can, but I hope you'll try. We all know that you watch my videos. We all know that you've seen this challenge because I'm putting it at the beginning. So, if we go to the comment section and we can't find a single Muslim defense of Muhammad, we can only assume that you simply can't defend your prophet on this one. You don't want us to think that you can't defend your prophet, do you? Of course you don't. So pay close attention, and after we read the hadith carefully, I'm going to ask you a few questions. Questions so easy, an illiterate 7th century caravan robber could answer them. I'll start by giving a little background, and then we'll get to a special hadith we're going to examine, a hadith that critics of Islam will soon be adding to their collections. Muhammad is famous for putting his own teachings into the mouths of religious figures who came before him. In other words, when Muhammad talks about Abraham, or Moses, or John the Baptist, or Jesus, he makes them all sound just like Muhammad, when none of them sounded anything like Muhammad. Let's look at two quick examples. Surah 60, verse 4 of the Quran. Indeed, there has been an excellent example for you in Abraham, and those with him, when they said to their people, "Verily, we are free from you and whatever you worship besides Allah. We have rejected you, and there has started between us and you hostility and hatred forever until you believe in Allah alone." So Abraham says to the polytheists, there is hostility and hatred between us and you forever until you believe in Allah alone. Does that sound like the Abraham we read about in the Bible? No, Abraham generally tried to get along with the people around him, even when they were total pagans. What Abraham says here in the Quran sounds like something Muhammad would say, not like something Abraham would say. Muhammad excelled in what we might call forced posthumous conversion, forcibly converting people to Islam long after their deaths by putting his own words into their mouths in his silly book. Here's another example. In Surah 19, verses 28 to 31 of the Quran, Mary has just given birth to Jesus, and people accuse her of committing adultery. They say, "O sister," i.e. the like of Harun, Aaron. The translators added the like of Aaron to try to cover up the fact that Muhammad didn't know the difference between Mary, the mother of Jesus, and Miriam, the sister of Aaron, even though they lived 14 centuries apart. "Your father was not a man who used to commit adultery, nor your mother was an unchaste woman." Then she pointed to him, i.e. the baby Jesus. They said, "How can we talk to one who is a child in the cradle?" He, Isa, Jesus, said, "Verily, I am a slave of Allah. He has given me the scripture and made me a prophet, and he has made me blessed wheresoever I be, and has enjoined on me salat, prayer, and zakat, as long as I live." Does that sound like Jesus, let alone baby Jesus? No, that sounds like Muhammad. So Muhammad, over and over again, simply takes other religious figures and turns them into devout Muslims. Not surprising, since he was, after all, a professional robber. But Muhammad sometimes took this religious appropriation to whole new levels, giving other religious figures not only his theological teachings, but also his moral perversions. Muhammad was famous among his followers for being able to have sex with 9 or 11 women and girls in a single night. Consider a few passages. Sahih al-Bukhari, 5068. Narrated Anas, the Prophet used to go round, have sexual relations with all his wives in one night, and he had 9 wives. Sahih al-Bukhari 52:15 narrated Anas bin Malik, the Prophet used to pass by, have sexual relation with, all his wives in one night, and at that time he had 9 wives. By the way, check out the chapter heading, Whoever had sexual intercourse with all his wives and then took 1 bath only. Yes, history's greatest man would have sex with 9 women and girls, but would only take 1 bath. Sahih al-Bukhari 268 narrated Qatada, Anas bin Malik said, the Prophet used to visit all his wives in a round during the day and night, and they were 11 in number. I asked Anas, had the Prophet the strength for it? Anas replied, we used to say that the Prophet was given the strength of 30 men. And Sa'id said, on the authority of Qatada, that Anas had told him about 9 wives only, not 11. Notice that this wasn't something that Muslim men in general did. Muhammad's followers understood and boasted about the fact that their prophet in particular had the sexual strength of 30 ordinary men. So why did Muhammad have the sexual strength of numerous ordinary men? Well, Muhammad suggests that this was a special ability given to certain prophets, among them Muhammad and Solomon. Now for the hadith I'd like Muslims to explain. Sahih Muslim 4289. It was narrated from Abu Huraira that the Prophet said, Suleiman ben Daud, Solomon son of David, said, tonight I will go around to 90 women, and each of them will give birth to a knight who will fight in the cause of Allah. His companions said to him, say, if Allah wills. But he did not say, if Allah wills, and he went round to all of them. None of them became pregnant except one woman who gave birth to a deformed child. By the one in whose hand is the soul of Muhammad, if he had said, if Allah wills, they would all have been knights, striving in the cause of Allah. All right, there's a lot to take in here. First, when Muhammad's followers claimed that he would have sex with 9 or 11 women and girls in a single day or a single night, the only way I could make sense of this was to assume that he wasn't completing the act with each woman or girl. In other words, if Muhammad was going to one wife, having sex with her for 5 or 10 minutes, but not ejaculating, then moving on to the next wife for 5 or 10 minutes, and so on, and only ejaculating 2 or 3 times for the evening, that would be believable. But in this hadith about Solomon, Solomon believed that he was impregnating 90 women, which means that he was ejaculating in all of them. And since this is Muhammad telling the story, and Muhammad is clearly projecting himself onto Solomon, we can't help but conclude that Muhammad was somehow having 9 orgasms per night with his 9 wives. That would make Muhammad the Superman of sex. Second, do we believe what Muhammad said about Solomon? Do we believe that Solomon actually completed the act of sexual intercourse with 90 women in a single night? Let's assume that he started at 6 o'clock p.m. and that he kept having sex until 3 o'clock a.m. That would be 9 hours of sex. Since there were 90 women, Solomon would have needed to have sex with 10 women per hour. That's 1 woman every 6 minutes. Is this believable? Notice, if you're a Muslim, your prophet is the one who made this claim about Solomon. So you have to believe that Solomon ejaculated into a different woman every 6 minutes for 9 hours straight. Otherwise, your prophet was a liar. Third, Solomon had 10 times as much sex in a single evening as Muhammad had in a single evening, 90 women versus 9 women and girls. So if Muhammad had the sexual strength of 30 men, Solomon must have had the sexual strength of 300 men. The real Superman of sex, then, is Solomon, not Muhammad. Muhammad is only the boy wonder of sex, or maybe the Flash. Or, given what he must have smelled like when he climbed between the legs of wife number 9 before his lone bath for the evening, Swamp Thing. Fourth, notice why Solomon was having sex with 90 women in a single night. Each of them will give birth to a knight who will fight in the cause of Allah. Solomon wanted to raise up an army of jihadis. Does that sound like Solomon, or does that sound more like Muhammad? Fifth, according to Muhammad, someone warned Solomon that if he really wanted all 90 women to get pregnant, he needed to say, "If Allah wills, inshallah." But Solomon didn't say, inshallah, so only one of the 90 women became pregnant and she gave birth to a deformed baby. If Solomon had said, inshallah, he would have impregnated all 90 women, and all 90 women would have given birth to jihadis. We can only wonder why Solomon, after learning his lesson, didn't simply try again later, this time remembering to say, inshallah. We also have to wonder why Muhammad didn't take his own advice. Muhammad had at least 9 wives at one time. How many jihadis did he raise? Did he forget to say inshallah too? Now, since I've invited our Muslim friends to defend their prophet in the comments section, let me help them by asking a few questions. 1. Do you believe that Muhammad had sex with 9 women and girls in a single night while only taking 1 bath, as we read over and over again in the Muslim sources? 2. Do you believe that Muhammad's ability to have sex with 9 women and girls in a single night was natural or supernatural? Did he have that ability by nature, or did Allah miraculously bestow on him the ability to sexually perform 9 times a night? 3. None of the 9 women and girls that Muhammad would have sex with in a single night ever became pregnant. Muhammad had 3 sons and 4 daughters. 6 of his children were born to Khadijah, who died before he married these 9 women and girls. 1 of his children was born to his sex slave, Mary the Copt. None of his 9 wives in the hadiths we read ever became pregnant. But according to Muhammad, all he needed to do was to say, inshallah, and that would have somehow impregnated them. So, why didn't he say it, or why didn't it work? 4. Do you believe that Solomon had sex with 90 women in a single night? 5. Do you believe that Solomon's ability to have sex with 90 women in a single night was natural or supernatural? 6. When Allah was handing out supernatural sexual abilities to his prophets, why did he give Solomon the sexual strength of 300 men while only giving Muhammad the sexual strength of 30 men? 7. Do you believe that if Solomon had simply uttered inshallah before climbing on top of 90 different women, all 90 of these women would have given birth to jihadis? 8. Since Solomon was known for his wisdom, even in the Quran and the Hadith, why didn't he simply learn his lesson, have sex with 90 women again, and remember to say inshallah? 9. Given your ridiculous answers to questions 1 through 8, or your failure to offer any answers, how can you expect us to take your prophet seriously? 10. Why am I the first person to tell you about this hadith? There are a bunch of them in your most trusted collections, giving variations of the same story about Solomon. This is something that your prophet said to his followers to convince them to say inshallah. Why do your leaders hide these passages from you? Why do the kuffar have to tell you what your prophet really said? Those are my questions for Muslims, but I also have a question for you non-Muslims. Here goes. If Muhammad were alive today, how famous do you think he'd be as a 50-something-year-old porn star who could have 9 orgasms in a single recording? Let me know what you think in the comments. If you'd like to know more about the man Allah describes as an excellent pattern of conduct, be sure to watch my video, The Top 5 Most Disgusting Facts About Prophet Muhammad. It could save a life, and future generations will thank you.